All right, welcome back, everyone. Next session up is AI assistant development with of CAP apps, and I'm very honored to introduce Daniel and Stefan. So everybody, big round of applause, and off we go.
All right. So today we will talk about AI-assisted development of CAP applications. And if you have seen the keynote earlier, then probably a lot of this is not a big surprise to you. We see here the AI-assisted CAP development, which is different from AI-powered CAP applications. So AI-powered CAP applications is where you infuse an application itself with some AI capabilities, right? So maybe you want to have in your Fiori application get some suggestions already on a value help, what might be the right input to put in there, or you want to create an MCP adapter as we have seen earlier. So these kind of things are where we infuse applications with AI capabilities. But what we want to talk about in this session is actually when you develop an application, what can help you, develop an application using AI. And what you can see here, and the two top boxes are probably also not a surprise, because we said earlier, CapHire and all the tutorials out there and samples out there, all of that fuels what the LLMs know. And so when you just, without anything, ask an agent to basically go and create a CAP application, it will actually do a pretty good job, right? Anyways, we have some reasons for you why we say, okay, we maybe have to fine-tune that a little bit. And for this, we have the skills. So today we will introduce this skills library that we have created, and it is live since last night on GitHub, and the MCP server, which you might already know. And I already mentioned that, when you generate a new CAP application with an agent, that the result is pretty good usually, and you get something that works out of the box. But when you look into the details, sometimes you see that it's actually doing a couple of strange things, right? So first of all, when you generate a CAP application, sometimes what it will do is it will generate a CAP application that has in its package JSON CDS version 7 or CDS version 8, right? We just released version 10. I probably don't have to tell you have one major release a year, right? So straight off the bat, you get an application sometimes that is 2 or 3 years old, and that is even out of maintenance already, right? So the problem is that the models, they have a knowledge cutoff, right? So somewhere and for most of the modern models, that is somewhere in 2024, they finish learning, and everything that happened after that is basically something they don't know. And if you let that sink in, right, all the things we did around declarative constraints, the status transition flows, and all the other new features that you can see, none of that is known to the agent unless it looks it up somehow. And it becomes even worse, right, because if you tell an agent do something, you don't tell it exactly how, it will not even know that there is something new, and it will not even look it up, and it will just use the old kind of ways. So what we see is that without giving the agent any kind of additional instructions, we basically have an agent that works pretty well on samples from 2 or 3 years ago, but it doesn't really follow the latest best practices. It doesn't really follow all the new things that we have put in, where we improved the documentations, where we have improved the samples. So we have to find a different way to bring that in, and that is where we need the skills library. A few more reasons for skills is that, like if you give an agent all the possible ways of doing something, it will pick a different way every single time. And maybe that's not the most token efficient way, not the fastest way, not the best way for an agent to achieve something. Like one example that I could give is, when we create a new application, you want to have some test data in that application. And for the test data, if your model is a bit more complex, the agent starts making up your UIDs. It needs to generate this sample data. And it gets it right around 50% of the time, but takes a lot of time for that. So by adding a few instructions that say, hey, use CDS add data, then maybe replace some keyholder values, placeholder values, it will all of a sudden do a much better job, use less tokens, and so on, right? So what we tried with the skills is we were trying to not reinvent the wheel, right? We were just trying to give it some additional instructions that help it build good CAP applications. There is a thing called progressive disclosure, where basically only the description of a skill is read first, and then only when the skill is triggered, the full kind of skill is being loaded, and then if needed, additional instructions on top of that. So what skills are for us? It's their opinionated workflows. Like I already said, you know, it gives it certain ways how to achieve certain tasks. Post cutoff corrections, where the model just doesn't know something, and we try to bring in all of the new features that we have into the skills as well. We then go and test those skills with evals, and evals are basically prompts that you run, and you run the prompt one time with the skill, without the skill, and really see if the skill even improves the output. And then the evals are also very helpful, where when a new model comes out eventually, we can actually run the evals again and see if the new model still has that knowledge gap, or maybe we can even remove some things out of the skill again. And that shows you that skills are really for us a living artifact, because we don't want to just repeat the documentation, because then we have just, you know, another maintenance layer where we, you know, have a duplicate information of what is already out there. We don't want to tell the model what it already knows in a skill, right? Because then we're just wasting tokens. And it's also, of course, for us not a replacement for good documentation. It can, like I said, if there's something new in the documentation, maybe mention it, and then we look that up through the MCP server, that information. But it's definitely, the idea is if that something's missing in the documentation, then we actually add it to the documentation. We leave it in the skill for a while, because, like I said, there's this like learning curve for an agent that or LLM. And the idea is to remove things from the skill in the long term. Yeah, I kind of mentioned this already. This is then the kind of life cycle of a skill, right? We try something with an agent. We see the agent doesn't do it very well. Then we create a skill for it. We use something, a meta skill, the skill creator skill, that helps you write good skills and write those evals, run the evals, test the skill, and then ship it. And then the idea is that, of course, hopefully you all try out those skills, try them on real projects. We try them with some projects as well. And from that, we learn more and more and can improve the skills over time. Installing skills is quite easy. You basically just go to the repository that we have. There's, for example, the skills CLI, and then you can choose the skills that you want and install them. Currently, we have only 4 skills that are being released publicly. We are working on more already, and might make a lot more of them available soon. And yeah, with that, maybe one more topic, the MCP server, right? The MCP server, probably a lot of you know that already, but again, with the skills, it makes sense to mention it, because MCP and skills, they complement each other quite well. What the MCP server really helps you with is, you know, if you have your data model of your CAP application spread over multiple CDS files, maybe some of them are in plugins and far out there, what the agent needs to do is it needs to read all those files, it needs to make a model out of that, and the search model functionality makes it much easier, where, you know, you can just call that functionality and get the information on the model. And the same with the documentation. Instead of doing a web fetch where you basically pull in the CAPIA documentation, an entire page, what you can do is you can search through embeddings and through semantic search, which works much better for agents to actually find something in the documentation. And with that, I think we can hand over to the demo.
Yes, so of course we also want to showcase you what Daniel talked about, and to see the advantage also of the skills next to the MCP server, which we already have for quite some time. Thanks. Is the size good like this? Should I bump it? Okay. So to have a little bit to showcase, I just have here the simple bookshop that you get if you run CDS init. We can run or start the server, and what I want to show is, for example, if you create a new book, let's say a book for the reCAP 2026, and I can define a stock and a price. Right now it's not really constrained, not restricted. I can specify actually a price of 0, and I can specify a low stock, which you could imagine is not what you want. For example, you don't want to get out of stock, you don't want to give out a book for free. So what we could do in this case is we could simply just ask our agent or favor, in my case it's OpenCode, and prompt him that he please adds a check that before you can create or modify a book, that the stock has to be at least 50 and the price shouldn't be 0. And what you can see here is basically we have the CAP MCP server. It uses the server to search the model to understand how it works, but it also reads now our bookshop example and decides to actually write a custom handler, which is not wrong, right? You can totally do it like this. You see it creates a custom before handler for the create and update event. We can also have a look in the admin service for that. And it checks the stock shouldn't be under 50 or the price shouldn't be 0, otherwise we throw an error. Add the same thing for the save event for the book drafts. This works fine, it is good, but not perfect. As we said, what also Ole mentioned today in the keynote, back in the days we said the best code is the code you don't have to write. Maybe some people don't write any code anymore, but also the best code is the code you don't have to generate. So CAP supports declarative constraints, and assert range would be perfect fit right now here. And how do we get this? We can just load up our skills, which tells the agent to please also use the best practices. So what we can do now is we could just say, okay, thank you for the try, but we try again. And we install or add our skills over the skills library. And yeah, you can see we have 4 skills here. This were the same 4 you could see in the slides. A skill to add remote services, which gives the agent a step-by-step guide to do that. A CAP developer skill, which is very generic and helps to actually build CAP applications with Java and Node.js. We're going to use this now. Or the CAP trivia quiz, which is a skill, which is just a skill to ask you some questions to check your knowledge. But also what's very interesting is the CAP upgrade skill, which helps you to upgrade your existing CAP application. It also leverages the new migration guides. And yeah, for right now, we're just going to use the CAP developer skill, add this to our project. And basically what happens then, you will get in your agents directory, which is almost now the standard for all harnesses, to look into this directory to load skills. And we can find here our CAP developer skill. So to maybe save some time before we go into this, I can actually run the exact same prompt again. And while it's running in the background, we can just have a look what the skill is doing here. So what Daniel already mentioned is skills have like a front matter, like the thing which is loaded into the context initially. And it consists of a name, description, and some metadata. But most important is the description here. And even more important is the section where we tell the agent when you should use the skill here. And we tell it should use it if you have a new CAP application or you want to extend the CAP application, please load the skill to understand some best practices. And basically this skill is also the skill which is used in Joule Work and Joule Studio, what Ole showed today, to also generate CAP applications. And we worked on the skill over months already to improve it, test it out manually, to understand what the agents can do by default and what we need to add here to get better results. And yeah, we can just quickly go over it. Like an example, what also Daniel mentioned, we don't want to replace our existing CAP MCP server, we want to complement it. So we tell in the skill, especially the agent again, please use the MCP server to search for CAP documentation, use it also to load the model. But we also added a hint. What we noticed is most of the times, or not most of the times, but sometimes the agent uses the documentation tool of the CAP MCP server and finds some information in the release notes. And then the release notes could be like 3 years old or so and could be already deprecated, but it refers to that and tries something out. So we added a section that it shouldn't prefer release notes and double check with the current used version. We added another hint for the project setup because back then Node.js was on default, and now we saw that agents failed at the first time to do the CDS init because they missed the .node.js or .java. We added a lot of hints for the CDS modeling to follow best practices, especially that it should reuse aspects that we already provide, and or for example that the entity shouldn't be exposed, like the same table-based entity shouldn't be exposed twice, and if you do it, please use CDS redirection target. And yeah, then the thing which hopefully the agent used in the background is declarator first, so before you think you have to write some custom code, please check in this annotations we provide to provide logic out of the box just to by declaring it declaratively. So for example, what is very new is also the transition flow. Most of the models don't know it yet, so if they load the skill and they know it here, they can use then the MCP server to look into the documentation and get to the same result. And yeah, at the end we just say if there's no possible solution to do it in a declarative way, you can write some custom logic and give some hints here. Also give a hint for sample data generation. Daniel mentioned that we saw some improvement there. And yeah, long story short, just to showcase, I hope it did it actually right. As you can see, the same prompt was sent, but this time it loads the CAP developer skill. It understood, okay, this has something to do with my CAP application, so I should load the skill. And it correctly used the assert range annotation instead of writing a custom enter. And yeah, we can see it hopefully in the schema here too. And this is a very basic, simple example, but you can imagine if you generate an application and do it daily, that this will build up at some point. So we added this skills, or the hints in the skill to improve the results. Yeah, I think that's basically it. And also a hint now, what also Daniel mentioned, the skill library is now public. It's in our Capiro org, so feel free to try it out. We are very excited for your feedback. And yeah, I think the beautiful thing at skills is you can clone them for yourself, and they lie just down in your project as files. So whenever you find something which is not suited to your use case, you can just update them, you can extend them, and if you think it's important to share this with all developers, you can just raise in PR, and then everybody can have an advantage out of that. Yes.
All right, so, thank you very much. We actually do have time for a few questions now, if you're up for it.
Yeah, sure.
Okay, cool. Anybody has a question? Well, that makes my life easier.
There, on the right side.
Oh, there. Okay, I'll just run real quick with this mic. I don't trust the cube.
So what I was questioning, you said the skills are in the project, but how do you make sure you get up to date? Because you maintain the skills file, and if I have it in the project, it doesn't get updated automatically.
Yes, of course. So we will release new versions, and it's also your responsibility to then update them. It's also, I think, the same for the MCP server. But yeah.
Other questions? All right. If you do have questions later on, you can meet Daniel and Stefan at the expert corner at 4:40 later this afternoon. And yeah, next up we have abstractions and what was it? Help me. abstractions and expressions up here with Patrice and DJ. So stick around, grab a drink, come back, and thanks again, Daniel and Stefan.
Thank you.